Hello and welcome to the Juan on Juan podcast. I'm your host, Juan. On this episode, we are joined by Chris Mathieu from Forbidden Knowledge News. He is on YouTube. Check out his work. I will be posting his information on the description. Make sure to check his work out. Make sure to follow us on social media as well at the Juan on Juan podcast. Website, thejuanonjuanpodcast.com. I got a blog on there. But on this episode, we talked to Chris. I'm a fan of his show. He talks about a lot of crazy stuff. He's had a lot of crazy people on, a lot of crazy guests. And he's on the same level as me, as researching things and that are esoteric, that a lot of people don't really think about, connecting dots that a lot of people don't ever connect, that sort of thing. And on this episode, we talked about a lot of different topics. We talked about extraterrestrials, ultraterrestrials, simulation hypothesis. We got into the Anunnaki, ancient civilizations, multiverse, interdimensional beings. We talked about religion. We talked about so many good things. Sort of freestyled it. Had him on the show. Didn't really know what I wanted to talk about, and we just let the conversation flow. And I know he knows his stuff because he's got a great show, and he's got a lot of crazy people on. So I know he knows what he's talking about, and these are the type of people that I like to talk to and I like to have on the show. So, without further ado, this is Dark Overlords, False Narratives, and the Fight for Power with Chris Mathieu. And we are live. Welcome to the show, Chris. How you doing today, man?
Hello, Juan. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing pretty well, given the circumstances.
Yes. I don't know where this is all headed, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to give the reptilian overlords power. We're going to switch the subject up.
Definitely. We don't want to do that.
Yes. So, Chris, I'm a fan of your show. Let people know where they can find your work and how they can find your show.
I started out on YouTube. You can find it, most of my shows there. Just search Forbidden Knowledge News on YouTube. I have podcasts. They're available on all popular podcast platforms. Spotify, Google, Apple, all of them. And my website is forbiddenknowledge.news. You can find all of my work there.
Right on. Today's going to be a little bit of a free-form episode. We're going to talk about just any craziness, really. And I'll start off with the question I always ask people who come on the show. But who is Chris Mathieu?
Who is Chris Mathieu? Well, it's taken my whole life to figure it out, and it's going to take the rest of it to completely figure it out. But I guess I'll just start by, in the beginning of my life, from an early age, I just had a feeling that there wasn't something right about the way the world worked. It just was my intuition, even as a young child. I questioned everything. I questioned the school system. I questioned movies. I questioned my parents' authority. I questioned everything because something never felt right to me about the way everything was functioning in the world. And it got stronger as I got into my teenage years. And then, as a teenager, I kind of fell into the bad crowd, started drinking, doing drugs, and I just kind of put all that, buried all those feelings and just started going on with society, partied throughout my teenage years, early 20s, then got a regular job, working a day job, 9 to 5, not questioning anything, but still having that gut feeling that, something's not right with everything. And it just continued on that way until I divorced my wife. It was right around 2012, and this coincided with what people think is the beginning of this massive awakening that we're seeing now. Because I definitely, all of a sudden, I had the urge to look into those feelings that I was feeling my whole life. And I started researching. I started researching everything that I questioned. UFOs, I started diving deep into that, paranormal, conspiracies, definitely conspiracies. I went deep into, black projects, deep state dealings, all these things that I really wanted to know what was going on, because it just never felt right to me. So eventually, I decided that I had learned so much, and around me, where I live here in South Louisiana, there's not many folks like me, I guess you could say. Less open-minded. So there wasn't anyone that I could share what I was learning with. You know
Welcome
what
to
I
the
mean?
club, man.
Yeah. So I started a Facebook page first. It got like a few thousand followers within a few months, and I was like, man, let me try a YouTube channel, and it just it took off. So I decided to get minds smarter than myself to kind of delve even deeper into this information. So I started contacting the researchers that I admired, that I wanted to hear more information from, and most 95% of these guys accepted on the bat. They want to come on, they want to spread this information. It's a great community. This whole blanket community of UFO, paranormal conspiracies, whatever you want to call it, the alternative community. They're really great people, and they're willing to share this information. And I've had some amazing guests on my show, people I never imagined that I would ever talk to. I got to cover a conference, the Laughlin UFO conference, and I'm doing all these amazing things right now because I actually followed my gut feeling into investigating the hidden world behind our world, basically. And here I am now, and talking to you, Juan.
Yeah, dude, we kind of have a similar story. And I mean, I haven't divorced my wife, but it's questioning, and I'm having this awakening. That's why I started my podcast, because I started looking into all these things, and it's, why do we accept what we accept as we accept it? Who decided that from the very beginning? And I've been looking into the work of simulacra and simulation, where you take the symbol, and perhaps the symbol, we gave it value, right? We gave it what it means, but it's not that. So in essence, everything we know is nothing because we give it value.
Yes,
Just
exactly.
just as, money. Money's one thing, we give it value and we let it rule our world. And
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you, Chris, I'm not big into the government conspiracy theories. I'm more of the interdimensional aspect, extraterrestrials, if that's what you want to call them, if they come from another dimension, whatever it is. I don't know, because I
Right.
don't think we will ever know. But I call these forces and these things, these opposing, you got the yin and yang, especially now at a time right now in history where we're at now. You see the division, right? You see the people who, if you listen to the mainstream media, you're a sheep. If you don't listen to it, you're uninformed. And it's like, again, Democrats, Republicans, you have, the blacks, the whites. It's always this division, and it's constant. And it's like, where's all this energy going? Like, it's who was it, the one that said that? Well, it's the first law or second law of thermodynamics, that law that energy it doesn't go away, it's just transformed.
Right. Yes.
And I believe in that, right? I believe in all that. And like, as of lately, I haven't really been able to sleep, not because anything wrong with me, but I just feel so, unhinged. It's weird. It's weird to explain. I don't know.
No, I know the feeling. For me, ever since this whole thing started, there's been a new feeling. But before that, I knew that there was some dark force that kind of was able to manipulate humans into being so divisive and cruel, and they kill each other, and they're money hungry. All these things. I've come to realize that it's from forces that are lower vibrational that feed off of these things. That's, at least that's what I come to believe. I think that there are forces behind the scenes that have been possibly just beyond the spectrum of our vision since the beginning of time. And possibly as long as modern humans existed, they have been trying to manipulate and sway them to do certain things. And I think that not only that, but I believe there are also, I guess you could call it extraterrestrial forces that are at play. I think our planet basically, it's like a lightning rod for a lot of these things that are either outside our electromagnetic spectrum, on another dimension, or even from a different planet. I think that this planet is possibly, sometimes I think of it as an experiment. Um, I think that life was seeded here for a purpose, and I think there's a battle right now to gain control over that life. And I think this battle has been raging since the creation of humans. And I think it also goes through cycles. I think these battles, they occur every few thousand years. They come to a culmination. And I think that humans go through these cycles as well, these up and down cycles, and we're going through an up cycle right now. Our DNA is being upgraded along with the solar cycles, the cosmic energy. Everything coming into our planet right now is affecting us as humans. And I think it's preparing us for this moment of, I don't know if you want to call it battle, but I believe that the forces of good and evil that kind of fight over control of this planet, I think that battle is going to be coming to a head possibly within our lifetime. If you follow the book of Revelation, I think that even though I don't go by everything in the Bible, there's so much truth in it.
Yes.
And I think that certain factions kind of use it as a playbook, but they also know that these things are going to occur. They use it to their advantage. And I think that that battle, yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be possibly within our lifetime. If not, we're going to see some things, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe, that we've never seen before. I think that the other side may make itself known to human beings. I mean, it is already in certain groups of people that can experience this paranormal phenomenon. But I think that I just have this feeling in my gut that we're going to know for sure that this other world and these other worlds truly exist sometime in our lifetime. I think they will make themselves known.
Yeah, some people refer to them as the ultraterrestrials. I've heard that used before. And I know you know your stuff, Chris, because you've had a lot of crazy people on your show. And again, I'm a fan of it. I've had people. I've had Ryan Burns on my show as well with, the Skinwalker Ranch, an interesting place. And it's like how you said. How do you feel? Where do you stand on the simulation hypothesis? Do you believe we're in a simulation? Like the Book of Enoch, right? The Watchers, how that higher power, whatever you want to call him, God, El, Yahweh, Jeshua, whatever you want to call him, was up there and he was conducting this experiment. And then the Watchers and the fallen angels went down and started messing with the experiment. He got mad and obviously sent the flood. Do you believe we're in an experiment of some sorts? How do you feel on that?
Well, simulation, I'm leaning towards no. It may be more of a holographic type universe. We could be, our consciousness is just plugged in some way. But as far as what was the second part of the question?
I forgot. I just asked you if how do you feel about the whole simulation if we're actually
If
in a
we're an
simulation?
experiment, yeah. So
Yeah, if we're an experiment.
so that part, it kind of strikes a chord with me, because I've always thought that if the Sumerian mythos has any truth to it, and these beings came down and they tinkered with the DNA of hominids and they combined it with their own. And I don't believe it was just one extraterrestrial species. I think they combined a lot of different types of DNA together to make what is now Homo sapiens. And when you look at it that way, and the possible reasons that they may have done this, to mine gold, to be slaves for them, to fight in wars for them. And if it's true that there are different factions that created us, that some that love us and some that don't, that just want to use us, it seems to me that we could possibly be some strange experiment, for these celestial beings or extraterrestrials, whatever they are. And I think that every once in a while they start over the experiment. It's possible. We've heard of these great cataclysms that they happen every however many thousands of years, and it wipes out most of the life on the planet, and everything starts over. And many of the researchers I spoke to say that we're headed towards one of those same periods now, where everything starts over. You look at the Noah's flood story, the story of Enlil and Enki, where Enlil wanted to just decimate all the humans, basically because it was an experiment gone wrong. Their slaves were rebelling. So
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a very highly possible.
Yeah, have you seen the movie Prometheus?
Yes.
Awesome movie. It's like that, right? Where
Yes.
they tell him where have you seen in the movie when David is talking to the architect, they don't translate it. Have you looked into what he says to him? Because there's a
No, I
script.
haven't.
So in the translated script, it's unofficial, but in the translated script, supposedly that's a draft. It says that he's communicating with him and he tells him, "Hey, listen, we've tried to save your species because obviously they were going to be killed before the aliens came and destroyed all of them. Spoiler alert, but whatever."
Right.
um, so he tells them, "We sent you Jesus and you guys killed him. You guys are monsters and that's why you guys need to die," or something around that. You got to look into it, but it's like, imagine if they would have left that in the movie.
Yeah.
The stir would have caused.
Yeah. Yeah, they drop some profound truths in cinema and movies and TV shows. If you pay attention to the right things, you can learn a lot from.
Yeah, I tell people that. I
some,
tell people they have to pay attention to the symbolism because these people, these forces, whatever you want to call them, I call them the reptilian overlord. That's because it sounds cool. They put out these signs and they do it on purpose, right? Because they know, hey, we know what you don't know, and it's it's very interesting. It makes sense what you're saying about the Anunnaki, where they modified the human DNA because we did this jump. Our brain, what, tripled in size, doubled in size in such a short amount of time. What happened that during that short amount of time that caused that? Because the Homo sapien, the advanced Homo, was 6,000 years back, but there's traces of them up to what, 100 and something thousand years back, 200,000 years, whatever it is. But then our brain capacity doubled or tripled in such a short amount of time. So what happened in that short amount of time that
right. Yeah. I'm actually having. I don't know if you know who Bruce Fenton is. Ancient history, ancient aliens theorist. He will be on the show tomorrow, and he will be discussing that exact thing. The jump, the major jump we had in our DNA. Like you said, in our brain capacity. And there's major anomalies in the difference from Cro-Magnon to Homo sapien that modern day science still to this day can't explain.
but they
Uh,
have a narrative for it, right? It's always
oh
they have
yeah,
an official narrative, and then if anything challenges that, it's wrong. Like just like Egyptology, they have
yes,
an official
exactly.
narrative, and they don't want to change it. That's what it is. And I've always wondered why such the hostility. Why aren't they open to other ideas? That's what gets me. I had Brian Forrester on the show, and he's the type of guy who cold hard facts.
Right.
And then I understand that once you're in a community and you get too woo woo, you lose your credibility, right? So when I had him on the show, I was like, oh, he's probably gonna be talking about aliens and stuff. It's like, nah, he's cold hard facts. This is what happened. This is what, something happened. But I think about it so so much where what if I could travel in time and see when the pyramids were being, brand new pyramid smell, and they were being used for something that we don't even have the remote idea of what these people were doing. And I know you had Ryan Burns on, and one of these things that has really stuck with me is that haplogene X, where they have a certain anomaly in their DNA where they're able to tap into this other realm and see these other things. And I have a buddy of mine who does tours in Egypt, and the box in the king's chamber, he tells me that when you lay in it and you hum a certain vibration or certain frequency, the whole
Right.
box starts to shake. And I was like, dude, what if? Because Nikola Tesla was obsessed with frequencies. Nikola Tesla was obsessed with Egypt. Nikola Tesla was obsessed with the pyramid in different numbers. And he even said it, once you start looking at the non-physical phenomenon, once science starts looking at it, they're going to advance in a decade more than they had advanced since the beginning of time. And it's like, what if these people were able to tap into something at a certain time of year, at a certain time in the day, whatever, and able to just lay in that box and teleport to another dimension or something, or I don't know, astral project, whatever they want to call it. Just like the Mayans. The Mayans disappeared out of nowhere. Were they able to figure something out as a people where they were able to just get up and leave and break out of the simulation or out of the matrix or whatever it is? I think about that all the time. And it's like, we don't even understand human anatomy. We can't even figure a virus out, let alone why do we want to go to another planet, to colonize another planet, to do what? To destroy it there? What if we encounter a color out of space situation where it's an extraterrestrial bacteria where we don't even know what it does and it turns people into zombies? You know what I mean? It's like that. We don't
Yeah.
even know what happens in a 1 by 1 inch square of dirt, let alone what's at the bottom of our oceans. And we want to leave this planet, Chris. We want to go and colonize other planets.
Well, I agree. I think that eventually we would that would be the ideal thing to do if for human survival, basically. But I want to go back to what you were saying about modern day academia and science and the Egyptologists, the archaeologists, all the modern day academics, they refuse to acknowledge some of these things that independent researchers are finding. And first it's because they want to keep their job. If they question the narrative, the mainstream narrative, they're going to get let go right away because the people above them, they already know this is true, and they know that the false narrative is there for a reason, so that we don't find out the truth. Um, so that's why I think that I don't think they're ever going to, unless it's made known somehow by other beings, by showing them, and independent researchers. The independent researchers right now are amazing, especially when it comes to Egyptology, when it comes to ancient civilizations. Brian Forrester, I've also had him on. I did a live interview with him at the Laughlin conference. He has some amazing information. He does try and stick a little bit towards the mainstream science, but he has great ideas about how some of this stuff possibly could have occurred. And when you look into that, it's amazing that at first we can't recreate any of these things. When you look at some of the cutting in places like Peru, Pumapunco, these precise cut stones, the way the blocks fit together, and not only that, but the weight of these enormous
Yeah.
blocks were moved for miles to get to the quarries, and there's no way that they can recreate this and build like the ancients built. The Great Pyramid, there's so many speculations on what the purposes for the pyramids were. Have you heard the story of Napoleon? How he when he went into the pyramid, what happened to him?
No, blow my mind, please. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not
he
familiar with.
went. He had apparently some sort of out of body experience, some profound spiritual experience where he saw his Waterloo and he came out just white as a ghost and freaked out beyond belief.
His Waterloo. What's that?
The basically his defeat.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. See, that's the thing. So they when I was in school, when I was a little kid, right? They would tell you, oh, these are the tombs for the pharaohs. This is an over engine, and then like once, like you said, once you have this awakening and you start really looking into things, it's it makes no sense whatsoever. Not only that, but they've never found a body in it. They're buried in the Valley of the Kings, 1,000 miles south or whatever, however far it is. And they tell you this, and this is what's printed in the textbooks. This is what the official narrative is. I've never been there. I'm wanting to go there, but obviously with things happening now, that's probably not going to be for a while now. And my friend tells me once you go into those pyramids, have you been, Chris?
No, I have never been. I was invited, but unfortunately was unable to go.
Yeah,
That
the
would be my
energy is
dream
is is
dream
different.
destination.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of my dream destinations too, because I don't think people understand the sheer size of the pyramids
Oh yeah.
and just the feat itself. And my friend tells me once you walk in there, the energy is different. Maybe they're working at 0.001% of what they were supposed to from the time that they were built. And who knows? Maybe the dynastic Egyptians didn't build it and they took over this
Well, that's
technology.
what I think. I think that it goes even before the pre-dynastic Egyptians. It could go beyond anything that we could imagine. It could go hundreds of thousands of years um, in the past, and I do believe it was definitely before the dynastic Egyptians. I believe there was a highly advanced civilization. I think it was a global civilization because you can see evidence of that in Peru, in China, in India, everywhere that they have these megalithic structures. There's evidence that there was this global advanced civilization that knew how to build, had advanced knowledge of the stars, astronomy, and possibly had advanced abilities, psionic abilities. And there's also evidence of giants. There's evidence of giants that could be up to 10, 12 feet tall. I've heard some accounts up to 15. I'm not sure about that. And
There have
we
been bones
also
found of that, Chris?
there are definitely bones found. I've had Michael Cremo from he wrote Forbidden Archaeology. He worked with the Smithsonian. He assures me that there were giant bones found. He says, he's not going to admit that they were destroyed like most of the theorists say. I believe they were destroyed. I believe the Smithsonian destroyed all the evidence of giants. And not only that, but the evidence of the elongated skull people that were found all around these megalithic sites, that it wasn't cradle head boarding that formed these skulls. These were natural formations. And in fact, Brian Forrester, in one of his presentations at the Laughlin Conference, he was talking about the DNA results. And
Yeah, I saw that.
yes, and I believe it was the mother is human and the father is unknown origin. So it's very, very interesting.
Yes. And so have you had Michael Masters on your show yet?
Michael Masters.
Michael P. Masters?
No, I haven't. What does he research?
He wrote the book Identified Flying Objects and some other book where pretty much what he talks about. This is a guy with a PhD in anthropology and evolution and all this craziness. So a guy who not just some wacko from the internet. He
Right, I
talks
think I know who
about
you're talking about.
yeah, where he talks about that these quote unquote aliens are actually just us time traveling back from another time to study us in this
Yes,
time.
Dr. Bruce Goldberg has that same theory. Yes, I've heard of that before. That's a very interesting theory. I think that it is possible that some of the extraterrestrials coming to visit us are from the future indeed. I think that possibly, they're coming back to see how we progress, maybe help us along in some ways, but I don't think it's all of them. There's too many different beings that are actually reported with contact phenomenon and abductions. Um, but when you get up into abductions and stuff, that's a whole new thing, and it's hard to tell if it's actually an alien or extraterrestrial or just us, our military, doing some kind of sick black ops project,
Yeah, MK Ultra or something like that.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
because and Chris, you as a person, I do the same thing, right? If I'm gonna talk about something, I'm gonna have somebody who's a lot smarter than me, who has researched it with count. Because
Right.
running a show like how we do, which we have pretty much the same setup where it's different topics, cool things that I like. I like the
Yeah.
stuff that I talk about. I have
Yeah.
the people I like on, and you do your part of the research, but it's different talking to somebody who's dedicated way more time to the subject because they're able to dive deeper. You just get the understanding, and sometimes people will bring up things that you don't know about. How are you able to determine what is real and what is not? How do you take when you have somebody on your show? Do you necessarily believe everything they're telling
Oh,
you,
not
or
at
how
all.
do you work with that?
Not at all. I keep I try to keep my own personal opinions to myself, and if I do say it, I will let the audience know that this is just my opinion or theory. I should have a disclaimer that the views of my guests don't necessarily reflect that of my own, but I think the audience should be smart enough to figure that out, because of the way I portray uh, the guests and myself and interact with them. But no, I definitely don't believe my guests. If unless the evidence they present compels me enough to believe it. But again, when I find that I believe something 100%, the next day something will slap me in the face and it'll change my mind. So I try to stay away from ultimate beliefs. I try to stay as in the middle as possible on everything because I know that I could always learn something that is going to change my mind. And that's what I love about my show is I have guests that have, one day I'll have a guest that believes something and the next day I'll have a guest that completely disagrees with them.
Yeah.
And I take all the information in, and that's the purpose of my show. Anything that is forbidden knowledge, we're going to examine it. We're going to look at all sides of it, and I let the audience make the decision. I don't try and decide for them. I don't push any views on them. I let the guests do the talking. I ask the questions. If I want to throw in my 2 cents there, I'll let them know that it's my opinion. But that's the way I like to do it, and I feel that especially if journalism now is shit, honestly. If modern day journalists, they're not even, they're just reading from a cue card basically now. There is no real journalist unless you're in the alternative field, unless you're doing something like us. Real researchers, real people that are looking into things and actually care about this stuff. I think you should remain mostly biased, especially when you're doing your show, unless you have enough evidence to present it as true.
Yeah, I stay in the middle, and because I've run into that where how you mentioned earlier in the show, you don't have a lot of people to talk to about these sort of things to people,
Right.
and you have a lot more episodes than I have. I started recently. I released in February, but I grinded out about 5 6 months worth of episodes in 2 months before I released. So I was grinding out episodes just so I can be consistent and have material. And then obviously I'm
Oh,
recording.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm recording more and more episodes every week. And you see from my earlier episodes, you will see in my show the slow decline of my sanity as I go, as I learn these different truths and talk to different people. You notice the decline in my sanity throughout the whole show. So my show just gets it's a downhill spiral, and it just gets juicier and juicier as the episodes go on because I'm awakening throughout the entire process of it all. And that's what I love about it the most, the process. And people have looked at me differently.
Yeah.
People, I can't have conversations with people regularly because either I lose them at some point in time, because it's like there's a lot of things that people know about, but they don't know about it. And it's like, well, did you know that this is this? And it's like, wait a minute, what? Well, I've thought about this my entire life this way. How could that be? And it's like, I don't believe everything 100%, but I'm always open to entertain all ideas because I don't feel you know the whole truth without knowing the whole truth, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
with religion, it offends a lot of people, but it's just the way it is. It's a system, it's a business. That's the way it is, you can't. But some people live by that. How you said some people live by certain doctrines and they believe it with all their will and all their soul. That's what it is to them, and I respect that. My problem is when they start, like you said, pushing ideas onto others, classifying them in certain groups. But again, this is all part of the reptilian overlord agenda to keep us divided. Because at the end of the day, and you know this, Chris, at the end of the day, all religions are the same thing, different names. That's it. It's all the same thing. Story of creation, it changes up a little bit, but it's all the same thing at the end of the day. And I love that ancient astronaut theory because you see such weird stuff. Like you see the same person being depicted throughout all these different cultures, throughout different parts of the world at different points in time. You see the same guy depicted over and over again. And
Yeah.
it's like, are we descendants from an alien race? Were we modified? And that's how we were able to expand our brains. I'm in the middle of Iron Skies right now. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, Iron Skies. It's about moon Nazis, and it's almost like the Enki and Enlil, two brothers, and then they genetically modify some monkeys, and the monkeys turn into humans, whatever. And it's like that. What if that was the official? What if that is the official narrative, right? Like you've had Matthew LaCroix on, and how he talks about the inversion of the symbolism between
Yes.
the serpent and the eagle. That's very interesting as well, and it makes sense. I've had this Gnostic, this person who studies Gnosticism. He's a lecturer and has a visionary school in Venice.
Mhm.
And about how, when the snake tells him, don't eat from the tree of life, eat from the tree of knowledge. And it's like you ate from it and you will know your origins. So the Gnostic belief was that in order for you not to find out that, Yaldabaoth was making the whole world his own, eat from the tree of life so you can live his life, right? And it's like, don't eat from the tree of knowledge because knowledge is power, and they don't want you to figure this out. They don't want you to figure out a way to break out of the simulation. They want you to stay trapped in it and follow their rules.
Yeah.
But
What they've done is they've inverted everything. The creation of religion, especially Christianity and Islam, Judaism. I believe that those are some of the most enslaving religions. I think that they were altered for the purpose of control. You were exactly right about these same characters appearing through all the different mythos throughout time, and just the stories changing slightly. Now, also the stories changed slightly to suit whoever was ruling during the
the
time.
narrative, to the
Yes,
victor, the spoils, right?
right. Yes, whoever was ruling during that time, they would want history and these doctrines and these scriptures and these ancient writings to be portrayed in a way that made them, look good, basically, and it went by what they wanted to portray the world as. So yeah, definitely this religion. I think that religion in general is most religions are a tool to control us, um, and I think that if you go behind what what these religions are, and you combine a little pieces of each of them, you can find the truth. You can find the truth. Well, as much of the truth as will present itself. But I think that these characters that appeared throughout time, I think that they were beings, possibly extraterrestrials, and they had a lot to do with whatever this experiment is on Earth. And these beings, I think that they control much of the narrative still. And you were also talking about the symbolism, the serpent and the eagle. Well, they use the symbolism. It's been passed down thousands of years, and they're using these same symbols to assert, yes, we are still the same bloodlines that was in control before. This is our symbol. This is us. We are still in control. They throw it in movies. They throw it in music videos. Most of the celebrities are. I believe that. I don't think they're Illuminati. I don't think they know what the hell's going on. Honestly, I think they're all brainwashed. I think that they're just doing it because they're told to, and they don't really know the real reason behind it. Maybe some of them have done some esoteric studies and looked into a little bit, but I really don't think they know the depth of what they're involved in. Because I believe that the whole entertainment industry has been corrupted to a certain extent. I mean, there may be still some outlets out there, but the occult has taken over. I don't, you probably watch Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
If you scroll through, everything is witchcraft. Everything
Yes.
is occult, demons. And you slowly saw it increasing through the years. The symbolism was increasing. The occult shows. It seems like Luciferianism is they're trying to make it more normalized, along with all kinds of other agendas that come along with it. It's like they slowly creep these things in each year to get you adjusted, to get you indoctrinated into what they want the world to be. I still haven't figured out exactly what that is, what they want. More control, 100%. But I think it goes deep through all levels of control in society, up to the highest levels.
Yeah.
Banksters, royal family.
I believe it. I believe it 100%. And like you said about finding the truth in all these stories, there's always a sliver of truth in everything. Just as like these boogeymen stories, there's always some truth to it. And it's been proven that fears are passed down through genetics. So perhaps this is a programming of our DNA in the real time, getting us ready for, like you said, what is it? We don't know. Probably some big reveal. This post-disclosure world of something that's coming. I don't understand what the need for a space force is at this point in time. Maybe they're gonna fake an alien invasion and get us situated
Well,
with that. I don't
what I
know.
think the Space Force, I think we've had a Space Force for a while, for at least since the 1950s. I've had plenty of guests on that claim to be in the Space Force or know this or that about our secret space program. And I can't take any of their words for it because there's zero verifiable evidence for
It's
any
always
of
a
it.
group that doesn't have a name, right?
Yeah, no one can provide any paperwork. No one can provide any pictures of they've been to different planets and they're super soldiers. It's all completely unverifiable, but I'll have them on my show to present the evidence because there's compelling evidence in some of their stories, and some of the researchers that research the secret space program, they have come up with compelling evidence. And I will tell you right now, David Wilcock and Corey Good, I believe, are 100% frauds. I think that they are taking advantage of
That's
people
the
with this whole.
Stars Academy, right?
No, no, no. This is David. They're completely separate. David Wilcock and Corey Good were with
Oh,
guys.
yes, yes, yes. I know who you're talking about. They came up with they made a movie, and then
Yes,
yes,
above
yes,
Majestic.
yes.
Yes, they're doing it completely for profit. They're frauds. So I would never have them on, and I would never listen to anything that they say. That being said, there are other researchers that research the secret space program that has come up with some pretty compelling evidence. I think that we have possibly operations already on the moon. It could go as far as Mars. I'm not convinced yet. Um, but I think there's definitely a sort of. I think that we have a planetary protection type of a fleet that kind of hangs out beyond our atmosphere, and that's just based on some of the researchers that I've had on that have presented some of this evidence. Like I said, there's no way to verify any of this, but I think the announcement of the Space Force was just to kind of
Start working
put it
it
out
in,
there.
right?
Yeah, put it out there so people would know. And I think it could be a reason to that we roll out some new toys and stuff like that. But definitely, I think that we've been working on that. And if you if you want to go as far as go back to the World War II stories of Nazis
The
channeling
real.
extraterrestrials to reverse engineer ships, and then they went to Antarctica. All that stuff is unverifiable. It's a great story. It's entertaining, but there's no way to tell if it's true. Now, the Admiral Byrd stuff is pretty compelling. That's some interesting stories. Again, no way to verify, but it's great stories. I think that the Nazis did get their hands on some advanced technology somehow. As far as they took it, I don't know how far they could go, but I do know 100% that we took their scientists in
Oh,
Project P
yes.
and we integrated them into the United States. It's disgusting where it's everywhere. We integrated
Von
them
Braun.
to our scientists, our media, our politics. They kind of they dug themselves into the United States in a way that it took control over almost everything. That's where all these black projects started. That's where MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird, all these dark projects that would kind of pave the way to culture creation. They would do all these things to kind of start steering society in a certain way. They would actually manipulate the music, I believe. I think that the whole LSD movement was to cause a certain kind of shift in thinking. And I think this control, it's beyond anything you try to explain it to them, and it's beyond anything they can comprehend. And that's when they immediately shut down
Mm-hmm.
and don't want to hear anything else about it. But there's dark forces in our world right now that I want to believe that the light is actually rising up and taking these forces head on right now. And I think that's why there's a struggle on the planet right now. I think that's why there's so much division amongst people. I think that's why we see people waking up. But I think it's supposed to happen right now. I think this is the time that we actually have to try and take our sovereignty back.
Yeah, and to touch on what you said about the Nazis with possible extraterrestrial technology, advanced technology, It's possible, and it makes me think how many times the government or anybody or any head of power has used, because I'm starting to notice a trend with this sort of thing. I did an episode, I don't know if you know about the Ashtar Galactic Command.
Ashtar Galactic. No, I don't think I'm familiar.
It's a UFO religion, and it's more of a spiritual, non-physical thing, and these people, I guess, astral project or something, and they believe that Jesus Sanandar, Jesus Christ, is this extraterrestrial being, and
Hmm.
he came down on Earth to teach people these different craziness. I don't know, but I'm starting to notice this. What if maybe these other entities are interdimensional, and there's a way to, I don't know how legitimate people channeling and all this stuff is. I believe in evil. I believe in witchcraft and all that stuff. I don't mess with that, the occult, and because you open up yourself to, to dark things. And how many times maybe the government has been able to get in touch with these entities, and they teach them knowledge, just like the Knights Templar in Baphomet, where they were
Well,
worshiping this dark entity.
I think I don't think it's when people say the government does this and the government does that, I think that's what puts people off. I don't. It's not the government. It's these secret compartmentalized factions that do it.
Yeah.
That are so compartmentalized, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and even some of the highest officials don't know that it's going on. That being said, I think that there are definitely factions that use magic every day. I've heard from a researcher that there is an actual room they use in the Pentagon to practice black magic, to do rituals before they make certain moves or decisions. But I believe it. I think that they definitely utilize this because it's powerful. It's what we're connected to in the universe. Magic it surrounds us. It's an energy field. You just have to learn how to manipulate it. And they're manipulating the darker side of it.
Yeah.
You can connect to the lighter side. You can connect to the darker side. You have to have a balance, I believe, but they are completely off balance. And they go to the darkest levels with this stuff. And the entities that are connected to this magic that they're using, they feed off of fear. They feed off of death. They feed off of destruction.
Almost
Uh,
like a sacrifice to them, right? Like an
right.
offering to them.
Correct. There's many things that have been done to appease the forces that they work with because they get rewarded. That's
That's
where their
part of the
power
deal.
comes
That's
from.
part of the deal.
It is. I believe it's part of the deal. And I believe that when they're losing power, they do larger rituals. Hence, I could go as far as to saying 9/11. I could go as far as to saying the Vegas shooting. I've had plenty of researchers on that have talked about this, and it does raise my eyebrow. I tend to think that it's possible that these are rituals. They also have other purposes. They may have multifaceted purposes for these events, the staged events. I don't want to say the FF word, but these
Hmm.
staged events that occur. There's multifaceted purposes, but I think there's also a ritualistic aspect to it. Um, they also do everything by numerology. They rely on numerology. I don't know if you've ever heard of Zach Hubbard. He does excellent
No.
numerology work. He connects everything. He can connect any event to a number, any even natural disasters. But they know how to use dates. They know how to use time. They know how to use the sun and the moon and astrology. They put all this together because they have a knowledge of it. It's been passed down through their bloodlines, and they know how to manipulate the ether. They know how to access this magic. They
Well,
know how it works, and they know how powerful it is.
we talked about the giants earlier, right? And I mentioned the Book of Enoch, when these fallen angels came down to earth and taught man the
Yes.
knowledge of roots and herbs and all this different stuff. And it might have been that, right? And that was passed down
Yes.
through centuries. And yes, I'm starting to see a correlation between that, between this and again, it's human nature to seek higher guidance, right? Like that's why people go to religions, because they want to be guided in life, to follow certain doctrines. And I feel this falls into the same realm of things where they're looking to this higher power to guide them. And again, like you said, there should be a balance, but it's really freaky, especially people like CERN, right? Where or Geordie Rose, when they talk about quantum computing and how they're opening up portals and these entities. He compared them to Lovecraft's great old ones that might
Right.
come through. They're not gonna give a shit about you, but they're gonna. And it's like, if you know Lovecraft, you know that the great old ones are not cuddly and cute and nice. They are drive people insane, and they kill people, right? That's their thing. And it's like, yeah, we're in contact with these things to help us advance and the civilization advance. And it's like, maybe, and it makes a lot of sense what you just told me. It really, it made me connect some dots where, wow, maybe the reptilian overlords are these other interdimensional beings where they do feed off this energy. And yeah, maybe, hey, if you do this for us, just make sure that people are divided and we get our feed of energy, and we'll do this for you. And you guys will have everything that you need as long as we have what we need. And it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Just like that. Have you ever looked into the room at the UN meditation room? Have you ever looked into the history of that room and who owns that room?
No, I have not.
So it's by I believe the name is the Lucius Trust,
Oh,
aka.
okay. Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, that's weird, right? It's
Yeah.
Lucifer Trust, and the it used to be the Lucifer Trust, and the owner of that company openly worships Satan.
Right.
And very odd that that would be in the UN meditation room, really?
Yeah, and you mentioned technology because technology, I think, is a big part of the plan. Technology is a double-edged sword. It can go either way, but I think the way we're pushing it, the way the powers in control are pushing technology, is the wrong way. I'm terrified that AI could go wrong. And like you mentioned, Geordie Rose, he talks about AI as if it is an alien. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what if they are trying to intermix this spiritual negativity into technology? That's another theory that I've heard. But our technology right now with cell phones, social media, everything that we can do, it's great to have the connectivity and all the innovation with it and everything we can do, the communication, it's all wonderful. But there's an extreme dark side to it. If you
Yes.
look at the younger generation, what it's done to so much of the younger generation, there's no more social skills. It's changed them. And it's changed society. It's changed so many things towards the negative that people don't talk about because it's become the new norm. But when you look back, that's not normal. This is not normal
Yes.
human behavior that we're seeing right now. And along with that, I think it's part of they want to prevent us from being upgraded like we are right now. They want to prevent that, so they spray crap in the air. They give us GMO foods, and they're trying to alter our DNA to, I believe, keep us from ascending to this higher level of a humans. They'll do everything, and I think that's what they've been doing with technology, social media, movies, everything that we surround us, our education system. They want to keep us dumb and down so we don't. I think they're terrified of it. I think they're
Well,
terrified of this period of time right now.
I'll have to disagree with you on that one, Chris, about them not wanting us to advance, because I feel that if I feel that they want to put. So we're talking about the singularity, and I'm coming out with an episode on Monday. I called the technological singularity demonic AI
I
and
think you have a
Jeffrey.
different idea of advance. As far as what I'm meaning, I don't think they want our DNA up. I don't think they want us awakening, I should have said.
Well, I feel they want to merge us with machines so we're easier to control, like in the
Yes, so
Matrix.
that's where I was going. That's exactly. We don't disagree. We don't disagree at all, my friend. I
Just
was saying
different
that they want.
terminology.
Yeah, different terminology. I think they want to suppress our DNA and awakening process. And like you said, eventually, possibly merge us with machines. I think that's one of the goals.
Most definitely want to merge us because what computer do you not know that hasn't been hacked? And it's like I tell people, listen, this is this is the best marketing. You're gonna live forever. You don't have to experience disease. You're gonna have a youthful body. This and that's how they draw you in. And you know how many people would jump at that idea? How in the movie Prometheus, the head of the company went all that way. Why? So he could live forever because he was old and frail. And when he found out and the architect killed him, he was like, "Oh, there's nothing on the other side. It's nothing, right? It's like it's just dark." And
Right.
that'll make it a lot easier for them. And we're getting there. Elon Musk, Neuralink. We're
Yeah.
getting there little by little. By 2030, you'll be able to download your consciousness into a computer. What happens then? What do we expose ourselves to then? What if these, I've heard that these demonic beings, if you want to call them demonic, they need flesh and blood, but then you have people who say that they can infect computers and anything that they want, right? Have you ever looked into Tracy Twyman?
Yes. Yes. I did want to have her on. Unfortunately, she passed away, of course.
Very interesting story.
Yeah.
And towards the end of her life there, some weird stuff was happening where she was talking about that, about these demons that got into some
Right.
computers at CERN and were able to manipulate her screen and very weird stuff. Very weird stuff. You have Isaac Cappy involved in there as well, which is another oddball.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just weird stuff, man. I don't know. And we'll start winding it down here because we're at the hour. I told you we'd go for an hour.
Yeah.
And again, it's just Chris, one more question. I just want to know from your point of view because I'm at a point where I don't even know what to believe anymore, to be quite honest with you. I have my thoughts about certain subjects, but I just don't know what to believe. And especially with what's going on right now, you have the left, you have the right, you have whatever, you have this. Where do you get your news from, Chris? What do you do to get your news, and how do you verify? Do you
Okay.
take it for a grain of salt or what?
Well, first of all, I do follow mainstream news sources. I will read the stories, but I find that that's not where the real information come from. If you go a little bit deeper, RT is a really good news source, believe it or not. Even though they are more mainstream, you will get a lot more information from RT. There, you can go to the far right news outlets. They claim to have the cutting edge information. What I do is I have so many, especially right now, I have so many researcher friends that we have group messages, and we send each other information. We send each other articles. We send each other things that we find. I've had a tight connection with a bunch of researchers for a long time, and we find that's the best way to share information is if you find something, share it with someone else, and vice versa. That's where I get most of my information from, is sharing it with fellow researchers. As far as I do Earth Changes news, I scroll the volcano discovery sites. I go to, I find pictures of anomalies in space. I go to the Soho. But mainly, you just have to look deeper than the mainstream. There's, I'm trying to think if there's any really good news sources. Not really, because I get most of my information from my fellow researchers,
Yeah.
and it doesn't come from any particular place. But just look deeper than the news. If it doesn't, double check your sources too. don't just look at one source and go with that. Make sure you check multiple sources for information. And right now it's hard, man. It is
It
so
really
hard to
is.
find good information because it's censored. Believe it or not, you can find a lot of good stuff on YouTube if you know the right channels to watch. Um, there's a few channels that I watch. I do follow Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot. Occasionally, she'll have some oddballs on there that I disagree with. She does have
Yeah.
some guests. She does do good geopolitical shows. Rents, I listen to Jeff Rents a lot. He does have a lot of good information, a lot of up to date information. Um, yeah, just find somebody that you feel in your gut is giving you good information. That's the best advice I can give you there.
Yeah. As we head into this George Orwellian world where things are being censored, they're stripping certain things away, they're going back in time and changing things around and making sure it fits their narrative and perhaps staging fake wars to keep everybody on edge and keep people in line. And the more and more I this John Lennon quote that's really resonated with me since I started my podcast. The more I see, the less I know for sure, and that's exactly
Yes,
the way it. That's
that's a great
exactly the way
quote.
it is. But Chris, thank you so much, man. We got to do this again. Next time we'll pick a topic and try and stick to it. But I like this free form. Just talk about whatever craziness comes to mind and just let the conversation flow. It's good to be able to talk to somebody who's on the same mindset as me because it's weird trying to talk to people about this. Sometimes you have to download the information, you have to spit it out because when you have it inside your head all the time, it can drive you a bit insane, knowing all these things and connecting all these dots. And it's a lonely, the esoteric research and all this stuff. It's a lonely road. It's a
It
lonely
is.
road.
It is. That's why I mean I have a great online community. If you can get that, if you can get some good online friends, it helps. Share some information there. But Juan, thank you so much. That was so fun, and I'd be glad to come on anytime.
Chris, one more time for the people, where can they find your stuff? And I'll be posting in the description of the episode where they can look at your stuff. Again, I'm a fan of the show. Keep up the great work. I appreciate you taking the time to come on my show, my little show here.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. Website is forbiddenknowledge.news. You just search Forbidden Knowledge News on YouTube. You can find me on any popular podcast platform. Just search Forbidden Knowledge News, and I'm there.
Thank you so much, Chris.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
You as well. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this show. Make sure to check out Chris's work on YouTube. The information will be in the description. Make sure to follow us on social media at the Juan Juan Podcast. Check out my website, thejuanajuanpodcast.com. Shoot me an email. Guess what? thejuanajuanpodcast@gmail.com. And again, I always appreciate the support. Make sure to give us a like, rating, share, subscribe, whatever it is to help us grow the show. And let me know what you think. And as always, until next time.